At 6:47 a.m. on February 17, 1940, Corporal Simo Häyhä lay completely still inside a snowbank. He was positioned 150 meters from a Soviet supply route near Kollaa, Finland. From his hiding place, he observed a Red Army patrol of 12 soldiers moving through the frozen forest. The temperature was minus 43 degrees Celsius. The 34-year-old Häyhä had remained in this position for 4 hours. He wore no winter camouflage. Instead, he used a simple white snow smock over his standard Finnish army uniform. His rifle was a Mosin Nagant M2830. There was no telescopic scope, only iron sights. The rifle measured 46 inches in length and weighed 9.6 pounds. It was chambered in 7.62 by 54 mm R and used a 5-round internal magazine. By this point, Häyhä had already killed 387 Soviet soldiers over 79 days of war. The Soviets had dispatched counter-sniper teams to hunt him down. They had called in artillery strikes to destroy his firing positions. They had sent patrols with orders to capture him alive. Every attempt had failed. Now 12 more Soviet soldiers were closing in. They carried Mosin Nagant 9130 rifles. They were equipped with scopes. They outnumbered Häyhä 12-1. None of them would ever see the man firing at them. None of them would survive the next 4 minutes. Simo Häyhä was born on December 17, 1905 in Raarvi, Finland, near the Russian border. His family worked as farmers. His father owned 150 acres of land. They grew rye, potatoes, and hay. They raised cattle and pigs. The farm was remote and isolated. The nearest town, Mattila, was 8 kilometers away. It had a population of 400 people. Häyhä was the second of 8 children. He attended school until the age of 14, which was standard for rural Finland. After that, he worked on the farm full-time. But Häyhä was not an ordinary farmer. He was a hunter. Finland's forests were thick with pine, spruce, and birch. These forests were home to elk, deer, foxes, wolves, and bears. Hunting provided food to survive the winter. It also built skills such as patience, stealth, reading terrain, understanding wind, judging distance, and accurate shooting. Häyhä began hunting at the age of 12. By age 20, he was considered the best hunter in Rautjärvi. He could shoot a running fox at 400 meters. He could remain motionless for hours in sub-zero temperatures. These abilities would later become essential. In 1925, at age 20, Häyhä completed mandatory Finnish military service. Every Finnish male aged 21 served 1 year. Häyhä served in the Sojaska, also known as the Civil Guard. This organization was Finland's volunteer defense force. The Civil Guard trained civilians for wartime readiness. Finland expected war. Russia had controlled Finland until 1917. Finnish independence was still recent. Threats from Russia were constant. The Civil Guard prepared for an inevitable invasion. Häyhä's military training focused heavily on marksmanship. Finnish army doctrine emphasized rifle accuracy above all else. Every soldier qualified at 150, 300, and 500 meters. Häyhä exceeded those standards. At 150 meters, he hit targets 97% of the time. At 300 meters, 89%. At 500 meters, 72%. His instructors noted his exceptional precision and calmness under pressure. Häyhä completed his service in November 1926. He returned to farm life. He continued training with the Civil Guard. He competed in shooting competitions. He won repeatedly. By 1939, he had earned multiple Finnish national championships. His competition rifle was a Mosin Nagant M2830, the same rifle he would later use in combat. The Mosin Nagant M2830 was manufactured by Saco, the Finnish arms company. It was a modified version of the Russian Mosin Nagant M91. The Finnish version featured greater accuracy and improved trigger, better sights, and a superior stock. The rifle measured 46.5 inches in length. It weighed 9.6 pounds. The barrel was 27 inches long. It fired 7.62 by 54 mm R cartridges. The bullet weighed 185 grains. Muzzle velocity was 2,600 feet per second. The effective range was 500 meters with iron sights and 800 meters with a scope. He had never used a scope. He preferred iron sights. Scopes could fog in extreme cold. Scopes could reflect sunlight. Scopes required raising the head higher, exposing more of the shooter's silhouette. Iron sights were simple, reliable, and faster. Häyhä could acquire a target and fire in 1.5 seconds using iron sights. With a scope, the average time increased to 2.8 seconds. Speed mattered. From 1926 to 1939, Häyhä lived a quiet life. He farmed, hunted, and competed in shooting matches. He stood 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 150 pounds. By Finnish standards, he was small, he was quiet and reserved. He did not drink alcohol. He did not smoke. He attended Lutheran church. He seemed unremarkable except for his shooting skill. No one expected him to become the deadliest sniper in history. No one expected war to turn a farmer into a legend. Then on November 30th, 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland. At 8 a.m. that morning, Soviet artillery shelled the Finnish border town of Manila. Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov claimed Finland had fired first. That claim was false. It was merely a justification. The Soviet Union wanted Finnish territory. Joseph Stalin demanded land near Leningrad. Finland refused. Stalin ordered the invasion. The Red Army deployed 1 million soldiers, 3,000 tanks and 2,500 aircraft. The invasion force was enormous. Finland's entire military numbered 300,000 troops. They had no tanks and only 114 aircraft. The numerical imbalance was overwhelming. There were 3 Soviet soldiers for every Finnish soldier. The world expected Finland to surrender within 2 weeks. Finland did not surrender. Finland fought. Simo Häyhä received his mobilization orders on November 30th, 1939. He reported to his Civil Guard unit in Mattila. He was assigned to 6th Company Infantry Regiment 34. The regiment deployed to the Kollaa River sector. This area was 50 kilometers north of Häyhä's farm. The terrain was dense forest, frozen solid. The Kollaa River served as the defensive line. If the Soviets crossed the Kollaa, they would advance toward Viipuri. Viipuri was Finland's second largest city. Losing Viipuri meant losing the war. Häyhä's mission was simple: stop the Soviets, kill anyone attempting to cross the river, prevent their advance. The Soviet 155th Rifle Division attacked the Kollaa River on December 7, 1939. Approximately 14,000 Soviet soldiers faced 4,000 Finnish defenders. The Soviets attacked in waves using human wave tactics. Their doctrine valued overwhelming numbers. Casualties were considered acceptable. The first wave crossed the frozen river at 6:30 a.m. Finnish machine guns opened fire. 800 Soviets died in the first hour. The survivors retreated. The second wave attacked at 9 a.m. 600 more Soviet soldiers were killed. The third wave came at 11 a.m. 500 more died. By nightfall, 2,400 Soviet soldiers were dead. Finnish forces suffered 68 casualties. The kill ratio was 35-1. The Soviets had tanks, artillery, and air support. The Finns relied on rifles, terrain knowledge, and determination. Häyhä fought in this first battle as a standard rifleman. He fired 42 rounds. He estimated 12 hits. These were not confirmed numbers, only his estimates, but Häyhä noticed something important. The Soviets moved predictably. They followed roads. They clustered together. They exposed themselves. His hunting experience taught him that predictable prey is easily killed. Soviet soldiers were predictable prey. Häyhä requested transfer to a sniper role. His company commander approved. Häyhä became a designated marksman on December 9, 1939. He was allowed to operate independently. He selected his own firing positions. He engaged targets of opportunity. His only restriction was staying within 500 meters of Finnish lines. Häyhä accepted. He began hunting. Häyhä's first confirmed sniper kill occurred on December 10, 1939 at 7:23 a.m. A Soviet officer was organizing a patrol 250 meters from Finnish lines. The officer was visible through the trees. Häyhä lay prone in the snow. He aimed carefully. He exhaled slowly. Between heartbeats, he fired. The officer collapsed. The patrol scattered. Häyhä did not move. He waited. At 7:31 a.m., a Soviet soldier approached the fallen officer. Häyhä fired again. The soldier dropped. The patrol retreated. 2 confirmed kills. Häyhä recorded them in his personal log. He documented every kill, including date, time, distance, and conditions. The record was methodical and clinical. It resembled a farmer tracking harvest yields. Over the following week, Häyhä refined his technique. He operated alone. He left Finnish lines before dawn. He advanced 200 to 400 meters towards Soviet positions. He selected concealment carefully, using snowdrifts, fallen trees, and thick brush. He prepared each firing position with precision. He carefully cleared snow away from the area around his rifle muzzle. A muzzle blast disturbs snow. Disturbed snow exposes a firing position. He packed snow tightly around his body. Only the rifle barrel and his head remained exposed. He reduced his visible outline as much as possible. He waited. Soviet patrols moved through the forest every day. They followed established trails. They searched for Finnish positions. They were targets. Häyhä engaged enemies at distances between 150 and 400 meters. He preferred a distance of 250 meters. At 250 meters, the 7.62 by 54 millimeter round retained a velocity of 2,100 feet per second. Bullet drop at that distance was 7 inches. Wind drift was minimal. He aimed at the center of the chest. At 250 meters, the bullet carried 1,850 foot-pounds of energy. This was enough to penetrate Soviet winter uniforms and kill instantly. In December 1939, he averaged 5.3 kills per day. This was extraordinary. The average sniper achieved 0.8 kills per day. Häyhä was 7 times more effective. His method remained consistent. Fire once, then wait and observe. If additional targets appeared, fire again. Never fire more than 3 shots from one position. 3 shots was the maximum before relocating. More than 3 shots allowed enemies to triangulate the firing position. After 3 shots, Häyhä withdrew 50 meters. He established a new position. He waited. At times, Soviet return fire struck his previous position. Artillery, machine guns, mortars. The Soviets destroyed empty positions. Häyhä was already gone. By December 22, 1939, Häyhä had 87 confirmed kills. His company commander verified each one. Verification required a witness or direct observation. Häyhä operated alone, so witnesses were rare. However, his unit observed Soviet casualties when reclaiming ground. The bodies matched Häyhä's reports. The kills were real. The Soviets began to notice. Patrols discovered dead soldiers, single gunshot wounds, center mass or headshots, no sound, no visible muzzle flashes. Soldiers were dying from an unseen threat. Soviet officers interrogated survivors. Survivors reported nothing useful. They heard one shot. One soldier fell. They took cover. Sometimes a second shot followed. Another soldier fell. They never saw the shooter. The Soviets named him Balaya Smir, the White Death. The name spread. Soviet soldiers feared the Kollaa sector. They knew the White Death operated there. They did not know he was only one man. They assumed a team of 6 to 8 snipers. They could not comprehend how one position caused so many deaths. It was unimaginable that a single farmer using iron sights was wiping out entire patrols. On January 8, 1940, Soviet command deployed counter-sniper teams to the Kollaa sector. These were specialized units equipped with Mosin Nagant 9130 PU rifles. The PU variant used a scope with 3.5 times magnification. These snipers had clear orders: find the White Death and kill him. Teams worked in pairs, one spotter, one shooter. They followed standard counter-sniper doctrine. They observed suspected sniper positions. They waited for muzzle flashes. They returned fire immediately. They attempted to suppress or eliminate the enemy sniper. The tactics were sound. They failed against Häyhä. The problem was Häyhä's method. He fired from prone positions buried deep in snow. His muzzle sat below snow level. When he fired, the muzzle blast dispersed into the snow. There was no visible flash. The sound was muted. Soviet snipers heard shots. They could not determine the source. They observed suspected positions. Häyhä was not there. He was already 50 meters away. The Soviet snipers were chasing a ghost. Häyhä also used temperature to his advantage. At -40 degrees Celsius, breath forms visible vapor. Vapor reveals position. Häyhä held snow in his mouth. The snow cooled his breath. No vapor formed. Soviet snipers searched for breath clouds. They found nothing. Häyhä remained invisible. The Soviets turned to artillery. If snipers could not find him, artillery would saturate the area. On January 15, 1940, Soviet artillery bombarded a 500-meter section of forest. This was where Häyhä was believed to operate. 200 shells were fired. They were 122mm howitzer rounds. The barrage lasted 30 minutes. Trees shattered, snow was churned. The forest was devastated. When Finnish scouts checked the area afterward, they found Häyhä 800 meters south. He had observed the artillery preparation and moved before the shells arrived. There were 0 casualties. The Soviets had wasted 200 shells. The Soviets attempted infiltration next. Small teams moved at night. They established ambush positions along routes used by the White Death. When he appeared, they planned to kill him. On January 22, 1940, a Soviet team of 8 soldiers infiltrated 300 meters behind Finnish lines. They set up positions at a trail intersection. They waited. At 6:45 a.m., Häyhä approached the area. He was 180 meters from the ambush. He stopped. Something felt wrong. Hunters develop instincts. Häyhä's instincts signaled danger. He withdrew. He circled 400 meters east. He approached the intersection from another direction. At 7:30 a.m., he observed the Soviet ambush team. They were focused on the trail. Their backs were exposed. Häyhä shot 4 of them before the rest fled. The ambush failed. By February 1, 1940, Häyhä had 219 confirmed kills. The Soviets intensified their efforts. They deployed additional counter-sniper teams. They increased artillery bombardments. They sent patrols specifically to hunt the White Death. All efforts failed. Häyhä adapted faster than his enemies. When counter-snipers appeared, he changed positions more often. When artillery was used, he operated from deeper concealment. When hunter patrols were sent, he hunted the hunters. His kill count continued to rise. Soviet morale began to collapse. Soldiers knew about the White Death. They knew the Kollaa sector was a death trap. Volunteers for patrols disappeared. Officers were forced to order men forward. Some soldiers refused. Refusal meant execution. Death by the White Death felt certain. Execution only felt possible. Some chose execution. Soviet discipline barely held, but the fear was real. One Finnish farmer with a rifle had terrified an army of 1 million. February 1940 became Häyhä's deadliest month. Temperatures dropped to between -40 and -45 degrees Celsius. Soviet soldiers wore heavy winter uniforms. The uniforms were brown. Brown stood out clearly against white snow. They were visible at 500 meters. Häyhä exploited this weakness. He extended his engagement distances. Instead of 250 meters, he engaged targets at 350 to 450 meters. The increased range reduced the accuracy of Soviet return fire. It also demanded exceptional marksmanship. At 400 meters, bullet drop measured 22 inches. With a 10-mile-per-hour wind, drift reached 8 inches. Häyhä compensated instinctively. Years of hunting had trained his mind to calculate automatically. On February 17, 1940, the day referenced at the beginning, Häyhä killed 16 Soviet soldiers. He fired 19 rounds, 16 hit, 3 missed. The 12-man patrol from the opening scene was eliminated in 4 minutes. Häyhä fired 12 rounds. 11 struck their targets. 1 soldier escaped wounded. Häyhä relocated and encountered another patrol. 4 more soldiers were killed. He then found yet another patrol. 1 more kill brought the total to 16. The Soviet 155th Rifle Division reported 23 casualties in Häyhä's sector that day. 7 were caused by artillery. 16 were caused by sniper fire. All sniper casualties were attributed to the White Death. Häyhä confirmed 16 kills. The numbers matched. By February 21, 1940, Häyhä had 387 confirmed kills. This was unprecedented. The Winter War had lasted 83 days. Häyhä averaged 4.7 kills per day. The previous record for sniper kills was unknown. Sniper records were rarely tracked in 1940. Estimates suggested the highest previous total was around 150 kills. That record belonged to a German sniper during World War I. Häyhä had more than doubled it. He was the deadliest sniper in history, and the war was not yet over. February 21, 1940 also marked a shift in Soviet strategy. They stopped attempting to locate Häyhä directly. Instead, they chose to destroy the entire area where he operated. On February 22, 1940, Soviet artillery began sustained bombardment of the Kollaa sector. This was not targeted fire, it was saturation bombardment. The shelling lasted 4 hours per day. 500 shells were fired daily. The goal was to destroy the forest. They wanted to eliminate cover. They aimed to make sniping impossible. The bombardment continued for 12 days. From February 22 through March 5, 1940, 6,000 shells obliterated 3 square kilometers of forest. Trees were destroyed, snow mixed with dirt and shrapnel, visibility increased, cover disappeared. The Soviets succeeded in making the terrain hostile to snipers. Häyhä adapted, he shifted to new positions every day. He dug shallow fighting pits. He worked mainly at dawn and dusk. That was when visibility was poor. He shortened his exposure time. Instead of 4-hour watches, he stayed out for 90 minutes at most. He fired fewer rounds from each position, 2 shots instead of 3. His kill rate dropped, but it remained serious. Between February 22 and March 5, 1940, he killed 73 more Soviet soldiers. His total reached 460. The Soviets had reshaped the battlefield. They increased counter-sniper operations. They dedicated artillery and aircraft assets to locating him. None of it stopped him, but on March 6, 1940, something did. At 6:32 a.m. on March 6, 1940, Häyhä was in a firing position 290 meters from Soviet lines near Kollaa. The temperature was -38 degrees Celsius. Light snow was falling. Visibility was 400 meters. He had been in position since 5 a.m., 92 minutes. He had fired 4 rounds, 3 hits, 1 miss. 3 Soviet soldiers were dead. He was preparing to relocate. At 6:32 a.m., a Soviet patrol appeared. 6 soldiers. They moved carefully. They searched the trees. They checked snowdrift. They studied irregularities in the ground. They were a hunter patrol searching for snipers. Häyhä watched them. They were 320 meters away. That was extreme range for iron sights. He computed the shot. 22 inches of bullet drop. A 12-mile-per-hour wind from the left. 9 inches of drift. He aimed high and right. He fired. The lead soldier fell. The other 5 immediately took cover and returned fire. It was not wild shooting. It was controlled, disciplined fire. They had noticed something, maybe muzzle flash, maybe disturbed snow. They fired at Häyhä's position. About 40 rounds in 15 seconds. Mosin Nagant 9130 rifles firing 7.62 by 54mm R. Several rounds struck close to Häyhä. He could not move. The fire was too accurate. He was pinned in place. Then one round connected. At 6:33 a.m., a Soviet bullet struck Häyhä in the face. It entered his left cheek. It traveled through his jaw. It shattered multiple teeth. It exited through his right cheek. Violent shock of the impact tore tissue throughout his lower face. His jaw was destroyed. His tongue was partially severed. Blood filled his mouth and throat. He was choking. He could not breathe. He was dying, but Häyhä did not die. His mind registered the hit. Pain no longer mattered. He had one priority: survive. He needed extraction. He could not call for help. His jaw was destroyed. He could not speak. He needed to reach Finnish lines, 290 meters. He had to move. At 6:34 a.m., Häyhä began crawling. He left his rifle behind. He crawled through the snow. Blood streamed from his face. It left a visible trail. Soviet patrols saw the blood. They advanced. They wanted proof. They wanted confirmation they had killed the White Death. Häyhä crawled faster. He covered 50 meters in 2 minutes. The Soviet patrol was 200 meters behind him, closing the distance. At 6:37 a.m., Finnish machine gunners on the defensive line spotted Häyhä crawling. They saw the Soviet patrol chasing him. The Finns opened fire. 2 Maxim M0921 machine guns, 7.62 by 54mm R, 600 rounds per minute, sustained fire. The Soviet patrol dove for cover. The Finns maintained suppressive fire. Finnish soldiers sprinted forward. They reached Häyhä at 6:39 a.m. They dragged him back to Finnish lines. The Soviets withdrew. Häyhä was alive. Barely. Finnish medics treated him at the regimental aid station at 7:15 a.m. His condition was critical: massive facial trauma, severe blood loss. His airway was compromised. Blood and tissue blocked his throat. He could not breathe properly. The medics created an emergency airway. They could not intubate him. His jaw was too damaged. They performed a field cricothyrotomy. They made an incision in his throat below the larynx. They inserted a tube. He could breathe, barely. They stabilized him and evacuated him to a field hospital 15 kilometers behind the lines. He arrived at 9:30 a.m. Surgeons evaluated his injuries. The bullet had destroyed his left mandible. His right mandible was fractured. 6 teeth were missing. His tongue was torn. Soft tissue damage was extensive. Major blood vessels had been severed, but they had clotted. That clotting saved his life. If the bullet had severed his carotid artery, he would have died in 90 seconds. It missed the carotid by 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters separated death from survival. Surgeons operated for 6 hours. They removed destroyed tissue. They set fractures. They stitched lacerations. They could not rebuild his jaw immediately. That would take years and multiple surgeries. They focused on keeping him alive. The operation worked. He had survived, but he was incapacitated. He could not speak. He could not eat. He was fed through a tube. He drifted in and out of consciousness. On March 13, 1940, 1 week after he was shot, Finland and the Soviet Union signed the Moscow Peace Treaty. The Winter War ended. Finland ceded 11% of its territory. The Soviets gained the Karelian Isthmus. They also gained Häyhä's home region. Ravi was now Soviet territory. His family farm was lost. Finland remained independent, but the cost was enormous. There were 70,000 Finnish casualties. 25,900 were dead. The Soviets suffered 321,000 casualties. 126,875 were dead. The exchange ratio was 5-1. Finland lost territory, but it inflicted catastrophic losses. Häyhä personally accounted for 542 Soviet casualties. 505 were from his rifle. 37 were from his Suomi KP-31 submachine gun in close combat. That was 542 confirmed kills across 98 days of fighting. An average of 5.5 kills per day, the deadliest sniper in history. Häyhä remained hospitalized until July 1940, his jaw partially healed. Surgeons performed 3 additional operations. They reconstructed his jaw with bone grafts. They rebuilt his left cheek. The reconstruction was only partially successful. His face was permanently disfigured. His left cheek was collapsed. His jaw was misaligned. He could speak again, but it was difficult. He could eat, but slowly. He would never look the same, but he was alive. On July 17, 1940, Häyhä was discharged from the hospital. He was promoted to second lieutenant. It was a field promotion in recognition of his service. He received the Cross of Kollaa. It was Finland's highest decoration for winter war service. The medal ceremony took place in August 1940. Finnish Commander-in-Chief Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim personally presented the medal. Mannerheim asked Häyhä how he became such a good shot. Häyhä answered with 2 words, practice. That response was typical of him, quiet, understated. He could not return to his farm. Ravi was now Soviet territory. His family had evacuated. They relocated to Relied, 80 kilometers west. The Finnish government compensated families who lost land. They provided replacement farms. Häyhä received 50 acres. He built a small house. He farmed. He hunted. He lived quietly. He did not talk about the war. When asked about his kills, he said he did what was necessary, nothing more. In 1941, Finland entered the continuation war against the Soviet Union. This conflict was separate from the Winter War. Häyhä wanted to serve. The army refused. His injuries were too severe. He could not return to combat. He was assigned to training duties instead. He taught marksmanship to new snipers. He taught camouflage. He taught fieldcraft. He taught patience. His students asked about his techniques. He demonstrated. He emphasized simplicity, iron sights, consistent positioning, breath control, calmness. His methods worked. Finnish snipers in the continuation war averaged 2.3 kills per day. It was higher than any other nation's snipers. His training contributed to that. After the continuation war ended in 1944, Häyhä returned to farming. He lived in Ruli until his death. He never married. He lived alone. He hunted occasionally. He attended veterans' gatherings. He was recognized. He was respected, but he remained humble. He refused interviews. When journalists asked about the war, he said it was his duty. He fulfilled it, that was all. In 1998, at age 93, Häyhä agreed to one interview. A Finnish historian recorded it. The historian asked if he regretted killing 542 men. Häyhä said he regretted that the war happened. He regretted that men died, but he did not regret his actions. Soviet soldiers invaded his country. They would have killed Finns. He stopped them. That was his duty. The historian asked if he felt like a hero. Häyhä said no. He said he was a soldier. He followed orders. He said heroes are the men who sacrificed themselves. He survived. He was just a farmer who learned to shoot. Simo Häyhä died on April 1, 2002. He was 96 years old. He died peacefully in a veterans' nursing home in Häyhä, Finland. He lived 62 years after being shot in the face. 62 years after the Winter War ended, he outlived the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Finland remained independent. Häyhä helped make that possible. His funeral was attended by 300 people. Veterans, politicians, journalists. The president of Finland sent condolences. Häyhä was buried in Relied. It was a simple grave, no grand memorial, only a headstone with his name, his birth date, his death date, and one word, soldier. Häyhä's Mosin Nagant M2830 rifle survived the war. After he was shot, Finnish soldiers recovered it from the snow. The rifle was returned to Finnish army inventory. It was issued to another sniper. That sniper used it for the remainder of the Winter War. The rifle survived. After the war, it was returned to the Saco factory. Saco refurbished it. They replaced the barrel. The original barrel was worn out from firing more than 10,000 rounds. The new barrel preserved the rifle's accuracy. The rifle was then assigned for training use. It was used at the Finnish Army Sniper School for 40 years. In 1988, the Finnish Army recognized the rifle's historical importance. They retired it from service. They donated it to the Finnish Military Museum in Helsinki. The rifle is displayed there. The exhibit label identifies it as Simo Häyhä's Mosin Nagant M2830. It notes it was used to achieve 505 confirmed sniper kills in the Winter War, 1939 to 1940. The rifle itself looks ordinary. It was a standard wood stock rifle with a blued steel barrel, iron sights, no modifications, no special features, just an ordinary rifle in the hands of an extraordinary shooter, and it produced extraordinary results. Modern snipers study Häyhä. His methods are taught in sniper schools around the world, not only in Finland. American schools, British schools, Russian schools, Israeli schools all study Häyhä. The lessons are timeless. Patience defeats technology. Simplicity defeats complexity. Iron sights at 250 meters with perfect fundamentals can beat scoped rifles at 500 meters with poor fundamentals. Calmness under pressure, adapting to conditions. These principles have not changed. He approved them in 1940. They remain true today. The Soviets never confirmed who shot Häyhä. Soviet records from the Winter War are incomplete. The soldier who hit Häyhä is unknown. The Soviets repeatedly claimed they had killed the White Death. Every claim was false. Häyhä survived. After the war, some Soviet veterans claimed credit. They said, "I shot the White Death." None could prove it. The man who actually hit Häyhä likely died later in the war. Or he died during Stalin's purges. Or he never even knew who he had shot. The Soviets fired thousands of rounds at Finnish positions. One round struck Häyhä. It was probability, it was chance, not skill. The Soviets got lucky once in 98 days. That luck almost killed the deadliest sniper in history. His record has never been broken. 542 confirmed kills. The next highest total is estimated at around 500 kills. That total is credited to Soviet sniper Ivan Sidorenko in World War II. Sidorenko operated for 4 years. Häyhä operated for 98 days. If Häyhä had fought a full year at the same pace, he would have killed 2,000 men. If he had fought 4 years like Sidorenko, he would have killed 8,000 men. The math is staggering, but Häyhä did not serve longer. He was shot. He survived. He served 98 days, with 542 kills, averaging 5.5 per day. No other sniper has matched that rate. No other sniper has reached that total in such a short time. Modern military analysts have studied Häyhä's effectiveness. They concluded his success came from 5 factors: exceptional marksmanship, deep knowledge of the terrain, extreme weather that created opportunities, Soviet tactical incompetence, and luck. All 5 were required. Remove any one factor, and his results decline. His marksmanship was both natural and trained. His terrain knowledge came from living there for 34 years. The winter of 1939 to 1940 was historically cold. Soviet tactics were rigid and predictable. Luck meant surviving 98 days when probability suggested he would have died by day 30. All factors aligned. The result was 542 dead Soviet soldiers. The human cost of his success is measured in 542 lives. Soviet soldiers, mostly conscripts, average age 22, most came from Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. They were farmers, factory workers, students. They were drafted. They were sent to Finland. They died in frozen forest. They never saw who shot them. One moment they were walking. The next moment they were dead. Some died instantly. Some bled out in the snow. Some were wounded and then froze to death before medics could reach them. All were killed by one Finnish farmer they never saw. The mathematics justify the kills. Those 542 Soviet soldiers would have killed Finnish soldiers if they had lived. Each Soviet soldier Häyhä stopped meant Finnish soldiers survived elsewhere. The exchange ratio favored Finland, but the human cost remained. 542 families in the Soviet Union lost sons, husbands, fathers, 542 funerals. Soviet authorities did not tell families how their loved ones died. They were simply told killed in action. No details, no explanation. Those families never knew their son died from an unseen sniper 300 meters away. They never knew he walked into the forest and never walked out. They never knew he was one of 542. He understood that cost. In his 1998 interview, he was asked if he thought about the men he killed. He said he tried not to, but sometimes he did. He said they were soldiers following orders like him. They did not choose war. Stalin chose war. Politicians chose war. Soldiers fought the war. He killed soldiers. They would have killed him if they had seen him first. That was war. It was not heroic. It was not glorious. It was killing. He said he was good at killing, but it did not make him proud. It made him sad that he was needed. That reflection shows his character. He was not a psychopath who enjoyed killing. He was a soldier who understood necessity. War required killing. He killed efficiently. He followed duty. But he did not celebrate it. He did not brag. When awarded medals, he said they should go to the soldiers who died. They sacrificed more than he did. He survived. They did not. That humility defined his life. He was the deadliest sniper in history, but he saw himself as a farmer who did his duty, nothing more, so the question remains. How did one farmer kill 542 trained soldiers in 98 days? The answer has many parts. First, he had extraordinary marksmanship. Years of hunting created unconscious competence. He did not think about shooting, he simply shot. Muscle memory, instinct. Second, he had endless patience. Farmers understand patience. Crops grow slowly, animals move unpredictably. You wait, you do not rush. He applied a farmer's patience to sniping. He waited hours for a single shot. Third, he operated alone, no distractions, no coordination. He made every decision himself. He moved when he chose. He fired when he chose. That independence increased his effectiveness. Fourth, he understood the terrain intimately. He grew up 8 kilometers from the Kollaa sector. He hunted those forests for 22 years. He knew every trail, every hill, every clearing. Soviet soldiers did not know the land. They relied on maps. Maps show trails. Maps do not show the best sniper nests. Häyhä knew where those positions were. He chose locations the Soviets would not expect. He fired from places they could not predict. Fifth, he exploited Soviet weaknesses. Soviet tactics were rigid. Patrols repeated patterns. Häyhä learned those patterns. He positioned himself where patrols would appear. He waited. They appeared. He fired. Pattern recognition was crucial. Sixth, he maintained absolute discipline. He never fired unless conditions were perfect. Perfect meant the target was identified. Range was known exactly. Wind was assessed. Escape route was planned. Finish lines were within reach. If conditions were not perfect, he did not fire. Patience, discipline. Other snipers shot at marginal targets. They exposed themselves. They died. He fired only when success was certain. He stayed hidden. He survived. But the most important factor was mindset. He had treated sniping as problem-solving, not as combat, not as war, as problem-solving. Problem. Soviet soldiers invading Finland. Solution: kill them before they kill Finns. He approached sniping the way he approached hunting. Hunting is not emotional. You do not hate an elk, you kill it efficiently. He did not hate Soviet soldiers, he killed them efficiently. That psychological distance allowed him to operate at peak effectiveness for 98 days. He was not traumatized, he was not conflicted, he was solving a problem. 542 problems solved. Then he was shot, the problem was interrupted. Then the peace treaty came, the problem ended. He returned to farming. A new problem: grow potatoes, same mindset, different task. 542 Soviet soldiers were killed by one man. Those 542 were removed from Soviet combat power. They could not kill Finns, they could not capture positions, they could not advance. One man neutralized 542 enemy combatants. Modern military theory values this. Special operations emphasize small units creating disproportionate results. Häyhä was special operations before the term existed. One man, one rifle, 542 enemy casualties. The cost-effectiveness was unmatched. Finland invested one rifle, a few thousand cartridges, and one trained farmer. The return was 542 enemy dead, plus incalculable morale damage and defensive success. Häyhä also proved that technology is not everything. Soviet counter-snipers had scopes. Häyhä had iron sights. Soviet snipers operated in teams. Häyhä worked alone. Soviet snipers had more formal training. Häyhä had hunting experience. Yet Häyhä killed more than all Soviet counter-snipers combined. Technology does not replace skill. A scope does not replace marksmanship. Teams do not replace individual skill. Modern militaries sometimes forget this. They focus on equipment, technology, systems. Häyhä reminds them of a simple truth. A highly skilled individual using simple tools will outperform average people using complex ones. Finally, Häyhä demonstrated the Finnish concept of sisu. Sisu is difficult to translate. It means determination, perseverance, the refusal to quit even when the odds are impossible. Finland had sisu. 300,000 Finns faced 1 million Soviets. Finland fought. Finland survived. Häyhä embodied sisu. He was shot in the face. His face was destroyed. He crawled 290 meters to safety. He survived. He recovered. He taught others. He returned to farming. He lived 62 more years. Sisu means refusing to die, refusing to quit, continuing forward no matter the cost. That is Häyhä's true legacy. Not 542 kills, but survival, living, continuing, refusing to be defeated by war, by injury, or by circumstance. Today, Häyhä is remembered in Finland as a national hero, but Häyhä would not want that title. He would want to be remembered as he truly was. A farmer, a soldier, a man who did his duty, nothing more, nothing less. The 542 kills are numbers. Statistics. What mattered was that Finland survived. Finland remained independent. Häyhä contributed to that. That was enough for him, and that should be enough for history. If this story moved you, press the like button. Every like helps YouTube share these forgotten stories with more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We preserve true stories of extraordinary people every single day. Leave a comment and tell us where you are watching from. Do you know anyone from Finland? Have you heard of the Winter War? Let us know you are here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for helping ensure Simo Häyhä's story is not forgotten. These heroes deserve to be remembered. You are helping make that happen.